one of the most notorious countries in the Middle East. With a military of 318,000 troops, it is a force to be reckoned with. Over the last couple decades, the country has utilized those troops in civil wars. Iraq's violent history can be traced back to 1968, when the Ba'athist Party seized power. In time, Saddam Hussein became the president of Iraq on July 1979. Immediately upon seizing power, Hussein assassinated his political opponents. In the 1980s, he invaded Iran, starting a decade-long war. During his reign, he massacred the Kurdish population in Iraq, invaded Kuwait, and refused to comply with UN inspections, leading to his final war. He was overthrown and eventually executed on April 9, 2003. This is when Iraq finally became a democracy. But in 2014, Iraq entered into a civil war between the main government and the Islamic insurgents from the ISIS terrorist group. Geography-wise, Iraq has the Zagros Mountains in the north, the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers in the east, and the Syrian desert in the west. The main economic goods Iraq produces are natural resources. This includes gold, oil, gasoline, and tropical fruits. Oil is by far the most important resource, accounting for 98% of all exports in Iraq. Iraq's economy uses labor-intensive methods to produce its resources. Iraq produces resources mainly for China, India, South Korea, United States, and Italy. Iraq is a mixed economy, half being a market economy, while the other half is a command economy.
How has the conflict between Iraq and ISIS affected the economy of Iraq? In 2014, a conflict started in Iraq against the newly proclaimed Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. This conflict will affect the economy of Iraq because the war will cause draining of funds from public projects to the military. This will result in a lower standard of living and also less funds toward projects that will help develop the country and its economy. Facilities for production will also be damaged in the war, which could be used for producing trade goods. We can look at how the GDP has changed before the Civil War and how it is during the Civil War.
If you don't already know, gross domestic product is one of the best ways to measure a country's economy because it is the value of everything a country produces. Iraq's GDP was at a high point of $234 billion in 2014, which is right before the Iraqi Civil War started. After this, it has continued to go down, but the rate which it does so has decreased. In the beginning, it went from $234 billion in 2014 all the way down to $179 billion in 2015. One reason for the cause of its downfall in GDP is likely the fact that the Islamic State has seized oil fields from Iraq, which makes a large portion of their revenue. Another reason would be the fact in war, infrastructure gets destroyed, which is vital to the well-being of the Iraqi economy. Things are looking better, though, as the civil war is coming to a close in Iraq. You can see this with the GDP because the rate at which it decreases has seemingly slowed down.
We believe that our investigative answer was adequate. We had viable information from the World Bank, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and many more. But we do believe that some limitations were played a role in this investigation. For instance, the information we perceived might be a little inaccurate based off of war and time. We were unable to find any recent information about their GDP, and with the civil war going on, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria has been stealing crude oil, destroying buildings, and making the GDP and economy of Iraq go down drastically, which means some information in this investigation might have several inaccuracies.